Hey guys, welcome to the last video of the blueprint section in our beginner series. In this one I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use functions in casting. So by the end of this tutorial we'll be able to create, be able to spawn our own death hitbox by clicking V, and then we'll be able to die by touching the hitbox. Alright guys, if that's exciting, this will be very easy. Let's get started. Hey, you guys looking for a new RPG that is unique and different from the rest? If so, Hero Legends is for you. It's an action-packed RPG and it's coming out possibly this week. So make sure to wishlist. It's free, helps me out immensely. Anyways, let's get started. So last time we just went over basic variables. So the next thing I want to teach you guys is how to create functions and cast to different objects. So for example, we'll be creating a little hitbox that whenever you hit it, it will kill you. So it will cast to the player, and then from there it will tell the player to use a death function. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is teach you guys how to make functions. Okay, so into your third person blueprints, go to your character, and then right here it says functions. We can click a plus. On the left hand side, if you go to components down to functions, click a plus right there, and we have a new own function. We can just call this die, and you can also change, you can compile it and save it, and you can change the name again if you accidentally messed it up. You can just click F2 to change the name. So basically how this works is we can call this function inside of the event graph. So if we go on the event graph, okay, we can just, I'm gonna delete the code from earlier, okay? Actually no, so before last tutorial we had a code where if your health, whenever you click 1, we're gonna subtract damage from our health, and then if it is less than or equal to 0, destroy actor, okay? Like so. Let me show you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and boom, the character is destroyed. However, there's a better way we could do this too. If we want to be more flexible with it, we can get rid of this destroy actor. If we want to use a function, we already made a function called die, so we can go to event graph, off of true, just look up die, and then basically it will fire whatever inside of this function. Any code we put in here is going to be fired whenever we call it. So this is very useful so that we don't have to copy and paste code multiple times. We can just call the same function whenever we want. Okay. So let's say for die, for right now, let's do a destroy actor. Then it's going to be doing the same thing, except this time we use the function. And now my health is at 10. I click 1 more time, and I'm dead. Okay. So that's how functions work, and we can even do more things inside of this. But for now, this is probably fun. So let's get started with how to make casting. So first I want to create a new blueprint actor, okay? Remember, an actor is literally just an object in the game. So like all these cubes, these are actors, okay? So on your third person blueprints, we can right click, blueprint class, and just pick actor. An actor is an object that can be placed or spawned in the world, okay? And we can just rename this to, we can call it death hitbox, okay? You can't have spaces in your name, so. Okay, let's open this up. So this looks kind of similar to the third person viewport, a little bit different. You have the viewport over here, details about the actor over here, the event graph for programming the actor. You have its components over here. Just like the third person character has components, basically everything that the third person contains is a component. So whatever this death hitbox is going to have inside the viewport is from the components. And then we have our variables and functions over here, okay? So we need to add a static mesh. Click on add, search up static, and then find static mesh. And basically a static mesh is literally just any, it's just a 3D model without a rig. And you don't worry if you don't know what a rig is, we'll learn that later. Basically a rig is just a skeleton that a 3D model uses to animate. So a static mesh basically means it's static, so it's a 3D model that does not move, okay? Think of like a statue, for example, right? So let's say for this, we're just going to use a cube, like so. And then we can use the transform tools that I taught you guys earlier in our level design series to just scale this up. You can just click R to go to scale. We can make this a little bit longer. Maybe I'll make it a little bit less tall. And a little bit thinner on the y-axis. Okay, so we got our basic model here. Now we can change the material to like red if we want, to the one we made before. However, we cannot make it die. If we want to make the player die from touching this hitbox, we do not want to do off the static mesh. Instead, because it's going to be trying to hit every single, it's just going to be a bit worse collision when it's trying to check the polygons for the static mesh. So instead, what we do is click on add, look up box, collision, okay, oops, box collision. And basically what this is just like a hitbox. So anything that goes inside this box collision will go into the code for whenever it gets overlapped, okay? So you can just scale this up to however you want. So basically anywhere, you scale this hitbox anywhere you want the player to be able to step into it. Anywhere you want it to be able to die. So let's say for like example right here, okay? And by default in the game, it's going to be hidden when you play the game. So if we compile and save this really quick, we can just drag this into our game. You can see the hitbox when you're working on the editor. If you click G on your keyboard, it's going to get rid of all the editor objects like the hitboxes. Like G is for game view, so you only be seeing what you see in the actual game. So for example, if I go to play it, we won't see the hitbox. However, nothing happens when we hit this red box. That's because we never told it to do anything, so we need to start programming it a little bit, okay? So inside of our death hitbox, how are we going to make it kill the player? Well, if you click on your box for your collision, and on the details panel, you scroll all the way down to where it says on component begin overlap. If you can't see, you can just drag this out. Click on the plus, okay? Basically, this is whenever something is touching our hitbox, we want to do something, okay? So this other actor right here, this is basically just whatever the actor is that touched our hitbox. So we want to make sure that the actor that touched the hitbox is our third person character right here, okay? So what we can do is this cool node called a cast to, right? So drag off of this other actor, look up a cast to, and to spell the names of the third person character exactly correct, BP, and look up, we got cast to BP underscore third person character. If your character is named something else, you have to cast to whatever name your character is. And basically what it's doing is when we cast to our third person character, we're basically just referencing the third person character. So from here we can use any code or anything we want from the third person character. It's kind of like sending a message to our third person character. So when we collide with the hitbox, we cast a third person character, we send a message to the third person character, hey, I want you to do this, blah blah. So for example, we can make it die when we cast to it. So as BP third person character, as you see right here, this is basically whatever we want it to do off of the third person character, okay? So from here, usually we cannot access the die function because we only created a third person character. But now that we're casting to the third person character, off of this as third person character, we can call its own function die, like so, and just drag it up here. And basically, now whenever we hit the hitbox, it should be killing the player. So let's test that out, compile and save. If we click play, and I walk over to it, as you see, the player has been destroyed. So that is how you cast to different objects, and you can use a die function. So there's just one more thing I want to teach you guys that I haven't taught in the last tutorial. We were going over variables, and I didn't show you guys how to use a vector. So if we create a variable, let's call this my first vector, okay? And set this to a vector. It could be a little bit more confusing than the other ones. You have to compile it first. But basically, I tell you guys how to use a transform. A vector is literally just a variable that contains a transform. So basically, it has an x, y, and z. So x is left and right, y is back and forth, and z is up and down. Okay. So let's say I want to, whenever I click a key, I want to spawn something about right here. So before we can start with that, actually, let's create an actor. Okay. So delete your hitbox. Okay. Let's say we want to spawn a hitbox at these locations. Okay. If we go to our details, we want the x to be 1720, y to be 1200, and z to be 0. So what we could do is copy this location for the x, Control C, and then go into third person character. We could set these values into this variable. So Control V on the x, Control C on the y, and then keep the z 0. So basically, this is just information for a transform, and what we could do is whenever we click a certain key, we could spawn our death hitbox at this transform. So it would be spawned at that location, if that makes sense. All right. So let's say for when the V key is pressed, okay, you can use whatever key you want. We can, there's this node called, if you search up spawn actor from class, this is basically going to spawn a certain actor, but we have to pick which type of actor we want right here where it says class. So if you click this drop down and you search up your death hitbox that we created, it's basically going to spawn the death hitbox. However, if you look up this spawn transform, it needs to know what location or transform it needs to be spawned at. Okay? And a transform is a little bit different than a vector because the transform can also have a scale and rotation. A vector is just a location, alright? So what we can do is if you right click on this pen, and because we just want to get the location, so if you right click on this pen, split struct pen, this way we can only get the location and keep the rotation everything normal. Okay, so keep rotation and scale default. We just want to set our location. So if we drag out our first vector, which has these values for x, y, and z, and just drag it into the location, it's going to spawn it at the location we set inside our vector. Okay, so if we compile and save, and then we can just delete this one right here. If I play my game, I click V, as you can see, it did not do anything. So let's see what the problem is here. Open our third person character. We could do, collision handling override. Don't do default. Do always spawn, ignore collisions. So let's see if that works. Basically make it spawn no matter what. Maybe it was a collision issue. Click V. As you can see, it still does nothing. So this is where debugging is important. Even I make mistakes, so what you want to do is make sure our V key is even working, alright? So, off of V, print string, and printing string is useful because now we can tell if we're actually clicking V or not. So if we compile and save, if I click V, it's saying hello, so that means there's something wrong with spawning the actor that we're not sure why exactly. Okay. So we selected our death hitbox into there. Maybe it's because it doesn't have an actual transform. So let's just, if we alt left click over this, right click on everything, recombine struct pen, right? What we could do is if you get the actual character, so if you look up get actor transform, this is going to get the transform values of the actual player. Okay. If you compile and save, let's see if this works. As you can see, that did work, and it spawned right where the player was, but it killed us. So for some reason, the vector variable did not work. I think it's because we can't just do location. We need an actual transform. So I'm sorry if I kind of confused you guys, but basically, we need to create a transform, okay? So let's see if there's a transform. If you look down from vector, we actually have a transform. And if we change variable type like so, and recompile, and then compile and save. Basically now we have a location, rotation, and scale. So we want it to be like, I remember saying we wanted it to be about 1900 right here on the X and 1200 on the Y. Rotation, we can just, if we look like right here, we can just keep it 0, 0, about -90, okay? Click back on your transform, okay? Click this to 0. And then our scale, we'll just keep it 1, 1, and 1, okay? And I'm just going to rename this to my first transform because we're using a transform instead. So sorry if I kind of confused you guys. Basically, we have to use a transform variable, not a vector, because the spawn actor class node needs a transform. It can't just have a location, and that's why it did not work. So if we drag this into here instead, hopefully this works. If it doesn't work, it just means that the variable, it can't use variables. But let's click play. If I click V, as you can see, it spawned it right there. I'm gonna get rid of the original one just so it's not in the way. So now if you see, I click V, it spawns at the location I set it. And if I walk over to it, I can jump over it kind of like a platform. But if I touch it and I miss, I die. So that's kind of how you guys can create basic platforms like so. So I hope this tutorial was easy for you guys. If not, let me know any questions you guys have in the comments. Anyways guys, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and wishlist Legends. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.